Hello and welcome back to our little F1 1991 season in AMS2. Today we're here at Silverstone for the 1991 British Grand Prix, and today we're competing as hometown favourite Nigel Mansell in a Williams that well looks like the strongest car this season. However, so far Mansell wasn't able to win a race this season with an early DNF in Imola and a second place in Montreal. He sits only in 4th in the championship. Behind his teammate Riccardo Patrese, a very consistent Senna, and Prost, by whom he was beaten to the win in Canada. So what better place to finally win at not only his, but his team's home Grand Prix. Let's look at the starting grid for today's race. And Ayrton Senna will be starting from pole position once again, alongside his teammate Gerhard Berger. Then it is an all-Ferrari row 2 with Jean Alesi beating his teammate Alain Prost, and an all-Williams third row with Nigel Mansell starting his home race in 5th and Riccardo Patrese in 6th. Then it gets a lot more colourful with Andrea De Cesaris in 7th, Gianni Morbidelli 8th, Nelson Piquet then alongside Pierluigi Martini, then Stefano Modena and Satoru Nakajima, Roberto Moreno in 13th, Marc Blundell in 14th, Martin Brundle, his teammate, in 15th, Thierry Boutsen 16th, then the rest of the grid is Gasho, Herbert Hakkinen, Eric Berna, Mauricio Gugelmin, Ivan Capelli, Aguri Suzuki, Eric Comas, Michele Alboreto and Alex Caffey, starting once again from P26. And here we are in our grid position as Nigel Mansell for the 1991 British Grand Prix, and it's lights out and away we go, and we get an okay start. Jean Alesi is already on the grass, so we are alongside both Ferraris here, and we are past Alesi, but Prost is still ahead of us going through Cobb's corner, and we get pushed wide by our teammate Riccardo Patrese, not really gentlemanlike by the experienced Italian. And we remain in P5 therefore. This is quite some rude behavior, but well, how Patrese went into Cobb's corner there. Frank Williams will not be too happy to see that, and neither will be the British crowd here on the track. They have showed up in a great number to see their favorite win here, but for now we're still sitting in 5th. And are now following our teammate around the course that is quite different to the one we know today, but at some corners you might recognize from nowadays layout. So right now we are already going back to the old pit straight and through that little technical section that was actually added just in 1991. Well, the way it is right now is a little different. Now we're going into left field, which isn't one flowing corner but rather two apex right-hander, and through Woodcote and over the line we go for lap 2, and this is how we're going into said lap 2. Senna still leads ahead of Berger, Prost in 3rd. Then it is Riccardo Patrese ourselves in 5th, and surprisingly Andrea De Cesaris once again with a great start as he sits in 6th. As we almost lose our car there, going through Maggots and Beckett's. The S's here, they already exist in 1991. And now on towards the Hangar Straight and Stowe Corner. This part is pretty much like it is today. And right now we are, well, at some points we are a lot quicker than our teammate, but especially in Cobb's corner he is able to pull away from us, as we have kind of an understeery car going into there. As we are now going through Abbey, which is just a left-hand flick, and now through Bridge Corner. Oh, and we run wide after Bridge Corner, so this wasn't ideal, but we don't lose any spot. So we remain in P5. A little bit of a hard stopping moment for us there, but nothing too terrible happened. We didn't even lose that much time. And in that technical bit here, with from Priory onwards, we are a lot quicker than the cars ahead, especially than our teammates, so our car is set up a little different to the one of our teammate. And now towards the S's. We come once again. Maybe we get a good exit out of Beckett's. This might be our chance to make a move on Hangar Straight towards Stowe Corner. Of course, probably the best overtaking spot on the Silverstone Circuit. But we are too far away, as we're still getting slipstream. And now through that really nice and fast right-hander, and we get a good exit out of there, and maybe a surprise overtake into Vale, and that actually works, and we are past our teammate Riccardo Patrese, and we move up into P4 to the delight of the British crowd here in Silverstone. And not much later we have actually caught up to the leading pack that still is led by Ayrton Senna, just like we were going into lap 2, but he wasn't able to pull a gap to his teammate, and his arch nemesis Alain Prost is just behind them in third, and now ourselves, of course, as Prost compromises his exit as he was trying to make a move against Berger, and now this gives us the chance to make a move on both of them around the outside of Cobb's Corner. That, of course, doesn't work, and, well, our car is still very understeery, but just into Cobb's Corner, the rest of the track, it is absolutely fine, but into Cobb's, we're just so understeery, and the car just drags towards the outside. Just behind us, we were able to see Riccardo Patrese was able to move closer to those ahead of us as well, so he is still just behind us. We can't afford to make any mistake battling the two McLarens and the Ferrari ahead, as he might take advantage from that, as Prost just made it past Gerhard Berger towards Vale and Club Corner. But now Berger around the outside, past the Ferrari, question mark. Well, they're still side by side, and this may be our chance going towards Abbey, and we get the better exit out of Club, so we are able to get alongside Prost and even alongside Berger, who pushes us to the edge of the track. Around the outside still, we make it past Alain Prost, and are now up into P3, and behind us Riccardo Patrese also trying to make it past the Frenchman in the Ferrari. They're still side by side, as we are now trying around the outside of Gerhard Berger, the Austrian, not with the greatest exit out of Luffield, but we managed to hold on to third at least, as Prost and Patrese still battling behind us for P4, and Prost came out on top of this battle and is still just behind us, as we are now following the two McLaren Hondas around the track. Now through the S's, through Cobbs, they once again pulled a little bit of a gap, as well our car is really not that great through there. And now Prost is in our slipstream, but he's not close enough to make any sort of move going into Stowe. Well, he is very close right now, but we are early on the throttle and closing up to the McLarens once more, but still not close enough to make any sort of move now. Maybe we weren't eager enough to get on the throttle early and try something around the outside of Berger. This, of course, now the bit where we went side by side a lap earlier, and we actually made it past Prost here. Now towards the technical bit, on towards Priory. Berger even seems like he can go a little faster than Senna, but now he made a mistake and we slide inside of his car and we make it past. Well, of course we don't slide into his car, but we slid down the inside, and now we even try on the pit straight to go side by side with Senna, and he has the outside line. This was very, very dangerous, as we know that our car isn't really that great through there, but Senna's car isn't either, as it seemed, because, well, he wasn't going through there much quicker than we did, but we made it through unscathed and still following the Brazilian around this circuit. And we get close towards Stowe, but not this time though. We are not close enough, but with a better exit out of here, we already made a move against our teammate here. Now we make one for the lead as we go side by side with Ayrton Senna, and we make it past the Brazilian to the delight of the home crowd. Nigel Mansell now leads the British Grand Prix in his Williams. And a lap later we go through Cobb's corner, and it gets a little better with the understeer, so this didn't look too bad as we are now making it into the S's, but we almost lose our car at the beginning of it, and we slide off the road very fast. Luckily the gravel trap slows us down so we don't hit the barrier, but we lost 4 spots and are now back into P5, just where we started behind the McLarens, our teammate and Alain Prost. A couple of laps later we see the first back markers in our way. The top 2, Senna and Prost, already made it past. This is Alex Caffey in the footwork. He lets us through going through Luffield, but that has cost Berger and Patrese a lot of time. And on the pit straight we go side by side with our teammate and into Cobb's corner. This time we actually manage to stay alongside and hold on to it, and we make it past our teammate with a great move going through Cobb's corner. Our car now feels a lot better through there, and we are actually able to make a move. And now on towards the hangar straight with a good exit and the slipstream. We might be able to make a move into Stowe. We get closer to Berger, but not close enough to make a move. But, well, we have already made 2 spots after this corner here with a better exit, and it is like that this time as well. And once more we dive down the inside, and this time we make it past Gerhard Berger and are up into P3. The podium spots once more, and the gap to Alain Prost, who is running in second right now, is just 1.9 seconds, so hopefully we're able to make them up. And a couple of laps later we have some other back marker. This time it is Lola Larousse, if I see that correctly. It should be Eric Bernard, the Frenchman, who is holding up ourselves and Senna, so Patrese just slipped through. We decide to do our pit stop in this lap, as we are now pretty much at the halfway point of this race. With a good run towards Stowe, we try to make it past our teammate once more, but Eric Bernard holds us up as well as he did with our teammate, and now we even lose another spot to Gerhard Berger. And just behind us, you were able to see it there, is now Nelson Piquet, who made up quite some time as well in the Benetton, who is now in the final point scoring position in 6th, as we drop down to 5th once more in this race. Still where we started this one. But at the end of this lap, as I already said, we will be coming in for our pit stop. So, and Patrese late on the brakes, trying to make a move against us. And now, after this double right-hander on the right-hand side, there is the pit entry, and it is a very awkward pit entry. And Berger goes into the pits as well, and we slip through against Gerhard Berger going into the pit lane. And this is quite some move we did there. And behind us, Nelson Piquet made it into the pits as well. So it's a triple pit stop for P4, 5 and 6, and let's see who comes out on top. Gerhard Berger's pit box is behind us. We should be able to get out ahead of him, so our move we made at the pit entry sticks, and we get out ahead of Nelson Piquet as well, and Piquet even made it past Gerhard Berger and the McLaren, so not a great lap here for the Austrian in his McLaren Honda, as we come out of the pits in P9 now. And a lap later, Ayrton Senna, former race leader, he was now behind Alain Prost, made it out of the pits as well, and we actually managed to, nowadays you would say, get the undercut done and come out ahead of the Brazilian. But let's see if he can go quicker than us with fresh tires. In our mirrors you can see him just behind. We should have enough of a gap so that he isn't able to make a move into Stowe. but that might change. Here's around our outside, but we get the better exit out of Stowe, so we should be safe for a bit now. And we need to see how this develops and who is able to go quicker in the second and final stint of the race. And a couple of laps later we reach Mark Blundell in the Brabham ahead of us. Strong race from the Briton for his team, his struggling Brabham team. He is running in P6 right now. Of course, he hasn't pitted yet, so he will still need to get that done as we now make it past him up into P6 and a couple of cars in the pit as well. So we now move up into P4. Alazi leads now this race ahead of Andrea de Cesaris and Roberto Moreno. These three, of course, haven't pitted yet, so we are the first car that has pitted, and Piquet is the other car in the top 6 that has already pitted. Well, and now another couple of laps later we make it past Ivan Capelli. He, of course, is a lap down, and ahead of us is Andrea de Cesaris, who is now leading this race, but he hasn't pitted yet. So with 4 laps to go we make it past the Jordan, who just dived into the pit lane, and we are back in the race lead, and we are quite comfortably in the lead as we are now leading 10.3 seconds ahead of our teammate, who sits in P2, so that should be it. And we join ourselves in the final lap of the race as we just go through Abbey and towards Bridge Corner. For the final time we go through the technical bit of the Silverstone Circuit, and it will be, in the second stint, quite a commanding victory for Nigel Mansell, who here wins his first race of the 1991 season, and quite fittingly it is his home race. He will now be in second in the Drivers' Championship, just 1 point behind his teammate. Nigel Mansell wins the 1991 British Grand Prix. And here are the final race results. Nigel Mansell wins 9.5 seconds ahead of his teammate Nelson Piquet, who made it up into P3, so the early pit stops really worked very well for Piquet and Mansell. Ayrton Senna had some trouble with his car in the second stint, so he was losing a lot of time. He even was almost caught by Alain Prost, and Gerhard Berger in 6th takes the final point of the British Grand Prix. And for the Drivers' Championship, this means something quite exciting as we have 4 cars properly in the title fight. Riccardo Patrese still sits in first, so he has 17 points and he's 1 point ahead of his teammate Nigel Mansell, who moves up into P2. Ayrton Senna, despite not winning any race this season, he still is in third and just 4 points behind the championship leader, and Alain Prost in fourth is not out of the championship at all. And behind them we have Nelson Piquet in 5th and Andrea de Cesaris still sitting in 6th with 3 points. And then we have Alazi and Berger with 3 points each, Pierluigi Martini in 9th, and Roberto Moreno, the final point scorer of this season so far, in 10th. Nakajima and Gasho, with their best finish of 7th, still sit in 11th and 12th. And in the Constructors' Championship we have a quite dominant lead for the Williams team so far. They're sitting in first with 33 points, McLaren moves up into P2 and Ferrari is third. Behind them is Benetton, Jordan and Minardi. These are the only 6th teams that have scored points so far. Well, and that has been it for the 1991 British Grand Prix. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did so, and don't forget to subscribe to not miss anything happening on this channel. The next race will be in 2 weeks' time, and it will be the German Grand Prix in Hockenheim. I hope to see you all there, and until then, goodbye.